I did. Now, you might be wondering what this number stands for. It's a pretty big number. 6,100,000. That's the amount of children in the U.S. diagnosed with a psychiatric disorder. Now, this graph shows the rate of doctor visits out of every 8 that are related to bipolar disorder. So, in 1994, the amount of doctor visits out of every 8 in youth related to bipolar disorder was 0.42. That's pretty small. But in a decade, it increased all the way to 6.67. That's a pretty big gap, and it's still increasing. In adults, the jump wasn't quite as big, but it's still pretty prominent. Now, there's a chemical that is implicated in not only bipolar disorder and psychiatric diseases, but also in major depressive disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, autism, bulimia, social phobias, anxiety, schizophrenia, and even cases of extreme violence. That chemical is serotonin, C10H12N2O. Serotonin is a major neurotransmitter. It is a mood stabilizer in your brain, and on a side note, will also help with increased sleeping habits, which is pretty helpful. But people who have all of those disorders are frequently found to have low levels of serotonin. So currently 1 in 6 adults uses some kind of medication to boost serotonin levels. Now, the amount of money we use on this medicine is up to $200 billion a year right now. So what if we could decrease this number? We could the amount of people using medication in half, or drop it even lower in the future. Now, the idea is called good mood food. Serotonin is produced in the gastrointestinal tract mostly, so your diet has a huge effect on its production. To create serotonin, you need lots of small antioxidants like vitamin E and zinc, high levels of acids and B vitamin folate, but you also need lots of protein to create tryptophan, which is a predecessor to serotonin. You need lots of carbohydrates to trigger the release of serotonin. Now, the study of nutrition affecting your serotonin levels is still relatively new, so I decided to try some of the diets myself to gain a little more knowledge on it. My first diet was kind of my average everyday diet. I had to start with a base to really see what the results were doing. So a normal day for me, most of the time, not during the actual diet, is a bowl of cereal, some sack lunch like a sandwich, chips, cookies, maybe an apple if I'm feeling healthy. During the fast food for dinner with sometimes maybe a homemade meal. Doesn't sound very healthy, does it? Turns out it's not. During this time, I was subject to mood swings, and at the beginning of the day, I would start off pretty good with a healthy outlook on the day, but by the end of the day, it would get lots more negative. So the next diet I tried were the Healthline's 7 Foods to Boost Your Serotonin Levels diet. Now, I only have 3 of them up here, but the 7 foods are eggs, cheese, salmon, turkey, nuts, and pineapples. That's only 6 foods. The 7th was tofu, but when I asked my parents to buy tofu, they laughed. During this diet, I was stable for the first part of the day, which is pretty impressive being a teenager in high school. I would have to say it did work for the most part. Now, the next diet I tried was less of a diet and more of a style of eating. It was based on a study by Dr. Wertman that found that when you eat protein, it actually drops your serotonin production. But when you eat carbohydrates by themselves, it will boost levels of serotonin and trigger the release of extra amounts. So during this diet, I would take little breaks in the day where I would snack on carbohydrates to try to trigger more serotonin throughout the day. And as a result, I stayed pretty stable the entire day, except for D block, but that's probably because I don't like doing math. Now, the other diet I tried after that was a combination of the two. So I would have all of these healthy foods to help me build more levels of serotonin, be ready to produce more. But then I would also eat mainly carbohydrates to trigger the release of more serotonin. So during this diet, the entire week of dieting, I stayed pretty stable and happy throughout the day, you could say, and it was pretty good. Now you might be asking, man, that sounds pretty good. I wish I could be like that every day. So an average day in like a model diet for you to go through would be something like toast and eggs in the morning, soup and salad or mixtures similar to that for lunch. Have something like fruits as snacks throughout the day with maybe chips and salsa, if that's what you like. And then for dinner, get your protein in with a side of rice, vegetables, or some kind of potatoes. Now, firsthand through this experiment, I saw how serotonin boosting affects me, and people like me, it could only help with really your mood that much, but other people it could be life-changing if they struggle every day. Bipolar disorder and major depressive disorder, through this solution, the rate of people with bipolar and major depressive disorder could decrease a lot. It would be easy for people and a lot more cost efficient, dropping the current amount we spend by a lot. Now, many antidepressants and similar drugs are found to be ineffective in some patients. So for people who aren't affected by drugs or who want just simply another option, now there is one. Now there are millions of people still struggling today, more than 17 million because that's only the amount of children, who struggle with bipolar disease and major depressive disorder. Now everyone deserves a chance though to not have to struggle. Through my research, I found that a person's diet may just be the key to a happy, healthy lifestyle for everyone. After all, it is called good mood food. Thank you.